start off this message with a quick video clip, so take a look.
Regina, we have to talk to you. Is butter a carb? Yes. Gina, you're wearing sweatpants. It's Monday. So? So that's against the rules, and you can't sit with us. Whatever. Those rules aren't real. They were real that day I wore a vest, because that vest was disgusting. You can't sit with us! These sweatpants are all it fits me right now. Fine.
You can't sit with us. Ah, high school. Does anybody actually miss it? For those of you who haven't seen this movie, it's called Mean Girls, and those of you who have seen it might not actually feel too badly for that character who's sort of being excluded. Her name is Regina George, and at the beginning of the movie, she was the leader of this clique of popular girls known as the Plastics. She was stuck up, self-promoting, and considered socially elite. She enforced a set of rules for her group of followers, such as you can't wear a tank top 2 days in a row. You can only wear your hair in a ponytail once a week. Jeans or track pants may only be worn on Fridays, and on Wednesdays, they wear pink. But throughout the movie, we see this group, and there's tensions building among them. And here in this scene, we found Gretchen Wieners pointing out that Regina has betrayed the rules of the group. And so in exasperation, she declares, "You can't sit with us." And Regina has no choice but to leave. Deserving or not, some of us can't help but wince when Regina says that sweatpants are all that fit her right now. Perhaps it's because we know what it feels like to be excluded. It's lonely, and it's painful. To sense that you don't belong somewhere, that you aren't welcome, that somehow you don't fit in. And maybe it was never put to you in such explicit terms, but you know what it feels like to not have a seat at the table. Maybe it was a party or a study group that you weren't invited to. Maybe it was a job you interviewed for and didn't get. Maybe it was a sense of isolation in your childhood or throughout your young adult years. Maybe you didn't feel smart enough, pretty enough, athletic enough, rich enough, talented enough. Or maybe you moved here to Ithaca recently and it still just doesn't feel quite like home. Maybe you've been seeking approval from your parents and you just can't seem to please them. Maybe you've been trying to prove yourself at your job, but no one takes notice of your efforts. You can't sit with us. It's a narrative we've all likely endured at some point or another, and it may even be attached to some pretty painful memories. But let me ask you this. How many of us have also been the excluders? The ones to turn people away from the table? Now, I can't imagine most of us have screamed at someone that they can't sit with us, but sometimes we're more subtle about it. We exclude in little ways. Maybe we've tried to steer clear of that weird coworker or that fellow student, someone that we clearly have nothing in common with. Maybe we've gossiped about someone with our close friends because it made us feel important or in the know. Maybe we've withheld information from a coworker because we really just don't have the patience to deal with them. Maybe we've avoided family gatherings because we know we have very different views on politics or other topics. Or maybe we've even felt justified in excluding someone because somehow they hurt us or betrayed our trust. When Regina was in charge, Karen was allowed to wear her best, so there's no way she's going to let Regina get away with sweatpants on a Monday. But seriously, we sometimes choose to subtly punish people for slights big and small. Maybe your spouse hurt your feelings, and so you're going to give them the silent treatment. Or a coworker offended you, so you're just going to write them off. Maybe somebody let you down, and you don't plan to let them forget it anytime soon. Or maybe somebody seriously hurt you, and all you feel toward that person is bitterness, resentment, and anger. Tit for tat, an eye for an eye. It's only fair, right? Well, as you can imagine, Jesus challenges us on our assumptions about who deserves what and who belongs at our table. So today I want to focus in on Matthew chapter 26 as we continue our series. And in this chapter, it begins with Jesus' prediction of his own coming crucifixion. He shares that with his disciples, and he knows full well what is to come. So let's go ahead and skip ahead to verse 14 in chapter 26. Go ahead and read with me. Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you? So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover? He replied, Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, The teacher says, My appointed time is near. I am going to celebrate the Passover with my disciples at your house. So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. When evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. They were very sad and began to say to him one after the other, Surely you don't mean me, Lord. Jesus replied, The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born. Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi. Jesus answered, You have said so. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, Take and eat. This is my body. Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Now, when I was reading this passage recently, I was struck anew by the fact that Jesus was fully aware of who would betray him, and yet he continues on with the meal. He doesn't cast Judas out or ask him to leave the table, but instead he invites him to partake alongside of his other disciples. Take and eat, he says. Drink from it, all of you. And as he imbues the common elements of bread and wine with new meaning, it's a giving of his very self. His body, his blood poured out for the forgiveness of sins. He knew Judas's heart, his intent, and yet gives him that which represents forgiveness. Can any of you sit at a table with someone you knew was plotting your likely death? Yeah, pass the green beans, Bob, before you go sell me out. Here, can I get you some more water? A traitor at the table. And as baffling as this seems to us, it would have been even